Next I will remove this plastic trim. There's 4 screws holding it on. I got the screws out of this trim ring. Now I need to slide it up over the shifter without tearing the rubber, hopefully. And then the next step is to remove the shifter unit itself. There's some screws here that hold it in place, so I'll remove those. On my truck, these screws are a Torx head. If you don't have a Torx driver, sometimes you can use a flat screwdriver or pliers to get the bolts out. I got the 3 screws out that hold the shifter on, and now it just lifts up out of the transmission. So we'll set that aside. Now underneath the vehicle there's a couple things I need to disconnect. One is this plug right here, which I believe is the reverse switch, and also the high pressure line to the slave cylinder. So the plug, I believe, will just pop out. Like that. And this one, in order to disconnect it, it's a quick disconnect fitting. I need to slide this plastic thing into this housing here and then pull out on the line, and it will release. So I'll get a couple of flathead screwdrivers and push this in order to release this line. I got my flathead screwdriver, and I just need to push this little plastic thing into the housing at the same time I'm pulling this out. They make a special tool for it, but I don't have the tool. So I've got this disconnected now. Some fluid might spill out, so I'll get a little catch pan for it. Now that the wires and slave cylinder line are free, I'm going to unbolt the transmission from the crossmember. There's a bolt on each side. It's a 19mm, so I'll unbolt those. Now that those 2 bolts are out, I need to unbolt the drive shaft, which is down there. I believe it's looks like a 12mm 12-point wrench. I've gotten 3 of the 4 bolts out, and it's loose now, so I just need to finish removing this bolt, and I'll slide the drive shaft out of the transmission up there. Next I need to remove the starter, so it's important that I disconnect the battery. Before I remove the starter bolts, I need to disconnect the electrical leads to the starter. It looks like there are 2 nuts, a 10mm and perhaps a 12 or 13mm, so I'll disconnect both of those. Now that the electrical leads are disconnected, I can unbolt the starter with these 2 bolts. There are actually 3 bolts holding the starter on, and I've got, this is the 3rd one that's just about to come out, and then the starter should just come right off. The transmission is held to the engine by a bunch of these 13mm bolts that go around the perimeter. Some of them you can get 2 from the top, some from the bottom. I'm going to take out all of them except about 3, and then we will support the transmission and take out the remainder. I took out all the bolts that hold the transmission except for a couple. Now it's time to jack up the transmission and remove the crossmember. Now I want to jack it up just enough to raise it off of the crossmember. Like that. Now that I know that it's supported, I can remove these bolts on either side and take off the crossmember. I'm on the last bolt for the crossmember. I'm holding it up with my knee on this side so that I can loosen up this bolt. So after this bolt's out, I should be able to take off the crossmember. Now that the crossmember is out, it's time for the fun part. I probably should have a transmission jack. Makes it a lot safer, but I'm going to take out the remaining bolts and slide the transmission back and then lower it down. So that's the next step. I've loosened up the two remaining bolts. This one, backed it off about 1/8 of an inch. The same with this other one. And now the transmission is loose. So it should be able to slide out pretty easy. It's kind of a wrestling match. I don't want it to fall on me. So we'll try to get her down smoothly. Quick and easy. And there it is. It is now down.